Do you know Invader Zim debuted on the same day as Fairly OddParents? I actually remember when this happened. There was a poll kids could call in to vote for which one they wanted to premiere first. And naturally, since I'm talking about Invader Zim right now, Fairly OddParents won. And that's why Invader Zim was cancelled. Nah, I'm joking. There is a lot of speculation as to why Invader Zim was cancelled though. Some say the show is just too dark for the kids' channel. Which is understandable. It's probably the darkest show ever on Nickelodeon. Well, besides any Dan Snyder show apparently. But that was behind the cameras. Actually on screen, it's most likely Invader Zim. I mean, there's dark humor, edgy stories, horrible monsters, kids getting tortured. One kid had their eyes ripped out, while many others had organs removed. And let's not forget complete destruction of the city. But really, what was Nickelodeon expecting from the show's creator Jonan Vasquez? They recruited him after reading his comic series called Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. They should have seen this coming. However, the darkness was not the main reason the show was cancelled. And it also wasn't the animator sneaking in the bloody gore image into several episodes. Which I tried to find when I watched the series, and couldn't find anything. I mean, they only put them in a frame at a time, so it's not the easiest thing to spot. But if you're interested in trying to find them, the Invader Zim wiki has the information on where all the known ones have been spotted. Although, it has been noted that there are secret ones that no one has found yet. But no, Bloody Girl wasn't the reason the show was cancelled either. In reality, there were many reasons Invader Zim was cancelled, as said by Jonan Vasquez. But the biggest one seems to have been time slot related. They never really found a good place for Invader Zim in the Nickelodeon lineup. Heck, at one point it was suggested that the show should move over to MTV, like Ren and Stimpy did, because it seemed like it would be a better fit for an older audience, not the kids' channel. But that didn't happen, and the show was cancelled. However, since its cancellation, the show's popularity has skyrocketed. I mean, just look at the merchandise that came from the show. Invader Zim merch was basically a staple of Hot Topic. It got so popular that Nickelodeon actually contacted Jonan Vasquez about bringing the show back. Sadly though, the show never returned. Seemingly, Nick wanted the show to come back, but didn't want to give the show enough money to actually make new episodes. The show's cancellation wasn't the end of the series though. There was a comic series that ran for years, actually written by Vasquez and other writers from the show. And of course, there's Invader Zim Enter the Floor Pits on Netflix, which most likely is Invader Zim's swan song. I think for many people, Invader Zim will be forever a cult classic, and looked upon as a fantastic work of art. But this status really made me think, how good actually was Invader Zim? Of course, the show isn't perfect. Nothing is. But I doubt it's purely nostalgia dominating people's view on the show. So I decided to rewatch the entire series. And upon review, the first thing I want to say is that the show has many great episodes. Absolutely. But there are a lot of just okay ones. And a handful that are just awful. The first season is plagued with a lot of non-conclusion endings to their segments. Like something horrible happens to the characters, and it just ends, with them being perfectly fine in the next segment. That did kind of irk me, but since it was done so commonly, I can accept it as just a thing that happens on the show. I will say some annoyed me a lot more than others, and that did affect those episodes' rankings. It gets better in the second season, but season 2 has its own problems. Like, dear God, how many times can you make fun of Dib's head? It felt like every other joke was making fun of Dib's big head. Hey Invader Zim writers, if the joke wasn't funny the first time, it's not going to be funny another 50 more times. Everybody makes fun of Dib's head, including Gaz and Zim, who have roughly the same size head. It's just stupid. Another thing that happens in season 2 is that Dib just forgoes the use of advanced technology to fight Zim, thinking only magic is capable of countering Irkin tech. Which yeah, magic is just a thing in season 2, and Dib is all about it. It makes me question if the show never got cancelled. Would the showrunners just make Dib a full-blown wizard at some point? Honestly, That would be pretty cool. Wizards vs. aliens sound like a fun idea. So yeah, Invader Zim is far from perfect, but it's in no way bad. It is a great show. And with that being said, here's every Invader Zim episode ranked from worst to best. But first I want to clarify one thing about my list. I decided to separate individual segments into their own ranking, because I really don't think an amazing segment should be brought down the rankings, just because it was paired with a dud to make a full episode. And the last thing I want to do before the list starts is give a shout out to our patrons. If you like this video and want to support us, consider becoming a patron. If not, a like and subscribe goes a long way. Thanks for watching. Now let's get to the list. Number 46 and the worst Invader Zim episode is Bad Bad Rubber Piggy. This episode is about Zim creating a machine that transfers objects through space-time, which he intends to send a robot back in time to kill a younger version of Dib. However, the robot is too big to be sent. Afterwards, a rubber piggy accidentally goes through the machine and replaces Dib's tricycle with a rubber piggy, causing him to crash horribly, leading Dib to have a claw for a hand. With this success, Zim starts to psychologically and physically torture Dib throughout his life, constantly replacing items he has with rubber piggies, leading present Dib to be horribly crippled, to the point Dib actually dies, before being brought back to life by his dad, who puts him in a giant killer robot, and he tries to kill Zim for ruining his life, leading to Zim to use the time device once more to stop himself from ever using the device. And everything goes back to normal, except for Zim, whose brain has been replaced with a rubber piggy. Yeah, this was a messed up episode. Some even call it the darkest episode of Invader Zim. I can see why someone would say that, but I would still have to say the organ harvesting episode was the darkest. But I can't fault you for thinking this one was. The constant torment to Dib was just awful to watch throughout the episode. And yeah, he does get retaliation in the end, but that doesn't make up for all the bad of this episode. And there are very few funny jokes to counter out how dark this episode was. It's hard to laugh at the episode when you feel sick to your stomach. F.
Why? Why, my piggy? I loved it, you piggy. I loved it, you.
Number 45 is Rise of the Zip Boy. This is the episode where Zim gets a pimple, after Gur gets pizza grease on him, and he cleans himself up with a bar of soap, leading to what was apparently Zim's voice actor's favorite line from the show.
Why was there bacon in the soup? I made it myself.
The pimple proceeds to become larger and more disgusting, after anti-pimple cream doesn't work. Gur then draws a face on it, leading it to hypnotize him as the pimple jiggles. Yes, this episode is about a hypnotic, jiggling pimple. 1 second. So Zim decides he can use his pimple to hypnotize people, leading him to give it a little outfit and name him Pustulio. He then proceeds to take control of his classmates at school. Dib tries to fight back against Zim, but falls under Pustulio's hypnotic control. However, not long after that, the pimple grows humongous and proceeds to explode, covering the school in pus, which we see Dib spit out some. I shouldn't have to explain why this one is a horrible episode. It was just disgusting. Utterly disgusting, with a vile ending. While Invader Zim doesn't shy away from a lot of gross things, this was just on another level of gross. And it only had a few funny jokes to help alleviate the issue. F.
You can't make me look. I'll just shut my eyes.
Oh, you'll open them. You have to breathe sometime.
No, wait. What do my eyes have to do with breathing?
Number 44 is Gaz, Taster of Pork. This is a unique episode for this list. It's one of the few full-length episodes in the series, taking up the entire 22 minutes of the episode. It's also the only full-length episode that I didn't like. And apparently, I'm not alone in this thought. Steve Ressel, a producer and commonly director for the show, has said this was his least favorite episode. Apparently Nickelodeon didn't like it either. Neither did a lot of Invader Zim fans. So if you liked this episode, please tell me in the comments what the hell is wrong with you. This episode starts off with Dib having magical devices called spell drives, which are all empty of magic except for one, but he doesn't know what it does. So he uses Gaz as a test subject, leaving a curse with being only able to taste pork. And they really don't shy away from showing the torment Gaz is going through because of it. To the point, I just feel bad for her. This leads Dib to feel horrible about what he's done to his sister, and stops at nothing to help her. He then uses the last remaining magic of the spell drive to teleport him and Gaz to the pig realm, where they try to get the Shadow Hog to remove the curse, who only agrees to do it if Gaz can beat his trial, which she very underwhelmingly does with ease. They then punish Dib for what he did to his sister, forcing him to clean a horrible, wretched magic toilet, which was actually quite unnerving. I mean, watch this.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, that's how the episode ended. I mean, yeah, Dib was a dick for what he did to Gaz, but he spent the rest of the episode trying to help her. I really don't think he deserved that. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of this episode. Much like the other two episodes so far, there were only a couple of good jokes, which didn't balance out the bad of the episode. F.
We're too late. They transformed into a book. I told them this would happen!
Number 43 is Dark Harvest. This is easily the most infamous and darkest episode of the show. Heck, many people think this individual episode was the reason for the show's cancellation. And if it was, I wouldn't be surprised. It's just such a morbid premise. And the fact that it was claimed to be the inspiration for the actions of a murderer didn't help anything. However, the murder happened 3 years after the show's initial cancellation, and many people say the murderer was just joking anyway. Even with all that unpleasantness out of the way, this is still just a messed up episode. The episode begins with Zim fearing people are going to find out he's an alien because he doesn't have human organs. So, what does he do about it? He systematically hunts down his classmates and steals their organs, until he becomes a disgusting blob of organs. Invader Zim will often delve into different genres. Some segments are purely comedy, some are action focused, some adventure. This one was horror, and a dark horror at that. So naturally, I wasn't the biggest fan of the plot. I also just think this is one of Zim's dumbest ideas. People are going to think it's weird that you have 2 hearts too, Zim, and that your intestines are coming out of your mouth. The only saving grace was that there was some funny moments in the beginning. But with the bad plot and the inherent darkness connected to this episode, I'm not putting it that high on the list. D-.
Ms. Bitters, I think a pencil is lodged in my brain. Can I go to the nurse?
How far in your brain?
Pretty far.
Number 42 is Polonius Maximus. This is one of the episodes where the non-conclusion ending really just couldn't be ignored in my eyes. Even as a kid, I was like, wait, that was it? What the heck happened? The episode begins with Dib throwing bologna at Zim, which burns Zim's skin, leading him to want revenge. So what does he do? He makes Dib sit on a pin. It seems harmless at first, until Dib slowly starts changing into baloney. Upon learning what Zim did, Dib congratulates him and shakes his hand. But when Zim does, he gets pricked with the same pin, and now they're both turning into baloney, forcing them to work together to find a cure. And they don't. The episode just ends with them becoming baloney. But don't worry, they're fine in the next segment. For some reason. Yeah, like I said earlier, I just can't ignore this lack of an ending. Ironically, it is one of the only non-conclusion endings actually referenced later in the series, still with no clarification as to how the problem actually got resolved. But it was at least referenced, I guess. Aside from that, the rest of the segment was really nothing to write home about. D+.
The school has lost its funding for textbooks, so you've all been given wildlife survival manuals. Today, you will be quizzed on how to skin a moose.
Number 41 is Walk for Your Lives. This episode starts with Zim trying to pass probing day by showing that he captured Dib and placed him in a time stasis field. However, something goes wrong and the field malfunctions, wrecking the lab. While cleaning up, Zim finds a time-slowed explosion, which is slowly getting bigger and bigger. Zim tries to get rid of it by dumping it into the city's cesspool, but he drops it in the middle of the city, leaving everyone to panic. But just leisurely, because it's going slowly. Which I get the joke, but seriously? This thing's going to destroy the city. How fast can you walk out of a city? Run, you bastards! Or get in your damn cars! Meanwhile, with Dib, he's still affected from the time stasis malfunction, leaving him to go very slowly. And rather stupidly, tries to get the cops to help with the explosion, even though the city is clearly aware of the situation. In the end, Zim does probably the dumbest plan he has ever come up with, and decides to trigger the explosion to save the city. Yeah, you know your plan is bad when Gur says it's stupid. And the city just blows up. The end. This episode had a relatively decent plot, until the end, which is just one of the dumbest things the show has ever done. I mean, triggering an explosion to save a city from said explosion is something I could have seen Peter Griffin coming up with, not Zim. And sure, Zim has been depicted as an idiot before, but this is just a level beyond simple stupidity. Also, this is one of the episodes that focus on comedy, and it poorly delivers on that. It's just a dumb episode. D+.
We cannot fail, Gur. Even as a small Urkin Smeet, my dream was to pass probing day like a Slorbeast passes her young. Jiggly and full of juice.
Number 40 is Planet Jackers. This is one of the handful of episodes where Zim is actively trying to save the Earth. Of course, only for the interests of the Urkin Armada. Not these Earth monkeys. This episode is about a different faction of aliens attempting to abduct planet Earth and throw it into their solar system's dying sun to let it survive longer. Fun fact, the Planet Jackers were actually killing their sun faster by throwing planets into it. Apparently it's like pouring alcohol on a campfire. It'll burn bigger for a little bit, but burn out faster. This episode has some fun action scenes when Zim is trying to fight the Planet Jackers, which doesn't go well for him. But he does manage to free Earth from their containment device without them knowing, leading to the biggest problem of the episode, which was just a bad ending. I mean, Zim frees the planet, sure, but now the planet is in a different solar system, and is way too close to the sun to sustain life, even if it's a dying sun. Also, wouldn't the Planet Jackers be easily aware that there is a new planet in their own solar system? So all Zim did was prolong Earth's life, if he didn't unintentionally kill everyone when the moon collided with the planet. So yeah, it was a decent plot with some good action scenes, but that ending, it was just bad, and that can't be ignored. C-.
Gur, come to the observatory.
Yes?
What have you done to the telescope?
Nothing?
You haven't touched it? Something is broken and it's not your fault?
I know. I'm scared too.
Number 39 is Bestest Friend. This is the episode with Keith! The boy at school that Zim selects to be his friend, after a girl calls him a freak for not having any friends. Fearing that the lack of friends would blow his cover, Keith wins the contest to be his friend, after some experimentation. He then parades Keith around to show off that he has a friend, where Keith starts getting on his nerves. Then at the end of the day, he tells Keith that he doesn't need him anymore. But Keith ain't about that life. and shows up the next morning at Zim's house before getting hurled out. He then tries to throw Zim a surprise party, but Zim finds out, and has a little surprise for Keith. Murder! Nah, he doesn't do that. Instead, he horrifically rips out his eyes and replaces them with robot eyes. That hypnotizes Keith into believing that a squirrel is Zim, which attacks Keith. The end. While Zim doesn't shy away from darkness, the eye ripping out thing was pretty messed up. But I can't argue with what Jonah and Vasquez said about it, saying that Keith was giving cooler, more high-tech eyes that he would kill for. Which, yeah, I would agree with that. Tell me in the comments what body parts you would willingly have violently ripped out and or off. If it means you get cooler, more high-tech versions of them. I'd personally choose my knees, if not just get full robo legs. But back to the episode. I found Keith to be an enjoyable character, if not a little stalkery. They actually plan to make a sequel for Keith, where he becomes a nuisance / quasi-stalker to Dib instead of Zim. You can actually find a summary of the episode in the Invader Zim wiki if you're interested. As for this episode, I would say it was alright, not great, and it did have a couple of negative marks. C-.
What are you doing, girl?
Nothing.
Nothing or something?
Oh, I can't take it. You're too smart for me. Keith is planning a surprise party for you after school. You gotta bring all the kids because he loves you. That boy loves you so much. I'm making the cake.
Number 38 is Door to Door. Here's a fact about this episode for you. This was originally supposed to air 3 days after 9/11, and had a scene that depicted an act of terrorism by Zim. Of course, after 9/11 happened, the 8A got pushed back until March of next year, and the terrorist scene was altered to be less intense. The episode is about Zim taking part of a candy drive to win a secret prize, which he hopes is a doomsday device. This is one of my favorite aspects you occasionally see in Invader Zim, where they do something classic from childhood, but alter it to be over the top and have drastic measures, like you see here with a candy drive, where Zim is only partaking in it to destroy Earth, and the candy is entirely made of sawdust. At first, Zim is struggling to sell candy, and Dib mocks him, saying he's going to sell more candy just to spite Zim. Then Zim gets an ominous image of the candy's mascot, who also says Zim's going to fail. This leads Zim to say, "Screw this, I'm going to do this like an invader should." He then starts strapping devices to people's heads, and shows some horrible images saying buy the candy or else, leading him to sell millions of candy. And he wins the secret prize, which was nothing. The secret prize was a lie just to entice kids to sell more candy. The end. I thought the ending was rather lackluster. Granted, he obviously wasn't going to get a doomsday device, but at least could have gotten something stupid as a secret prize as opposed to nothing. So the plot was alright. I did enjoy the candy drive aspect, but for a comedy-focused episode, it was really lacking in jokes. And I didn't like the ending. C-.
I will use inferior human fundraising techniques no longer. Now watch as I unleash the full power of Urkin persuasion.
I'm gonna be sick.
Number 37 is Plague of Babies. This episode is about Zim being spotted without his disguise, through a window by a baby, leading him to freak out about this baby, thinking it was going to expose him to the entire planet. So he goes to the baby's house and tries to ensure this baby remains quiet, clearly not understanding how babies work. However, Zim is defeated by the baby and must flee, because the baby smells horribly. After this encounter, he deems the baby not a threat, and then the baby reveals himself to be a threat, because this baby is actually an alien that looks like a baby, and he and his comrades have been stuck on Earth for years. But now they're going to steal Zim's ship and return home. This leads to a giant fight against the babies, who eventually turn to a horrible amalgam of babies. It was quite nasty looking. It ends with Zim electrocuting babies and sending them back to their cribs. Overall, it was an alright episode. The plot was decent and had a few good jokes. The only thing that brings it down to me is the fact that many of Zim's neighbors have seen him without his disguise, and he hasn't cared at all about them. Sometimes he literally just walks away without saying a word, so why would he care now about a baby? So this was really the only bad mark for the episode, but it was just a middle of the road episode. C.
Yes! A spy in the top window of that house! Something must be done before it gets to the Earth authorities! Who knows what?
Aww, he's cute and sticky looking.
Cute? This is a serious threat to our mission!
It's just a baby. A baby!
Number 36 is Future Dib. This episode is about Zim attempting to sabotage Professor Membrane's perpetual energy generator, which, if it malfunctions, can destroy all life on Earth. We see Dib going home to get ready for the turning on ceremony for his dad's creation. However, when he goes to his bedroom, he finds a future version of himself, who warns him what Zim is planning, and Dib works with his future self to stop Zim. However, this was all a trick by Zim, as future Dib was really a robot, and he imprisons Dib, so he can't interfere with his plans, leaving him in a cage with a monkey guard. However, Dib manages to hack Zim's computer and take control of future Dib, stopping Zim with the help of Gaz, somewhat. The episode ends with Gaz using future Dib as her servant. While the real Dib is never actually rescued, he's still just there with the monkey. This is another middle of the road episode. I wasn't too big on the plot and how it went, and I also wasn't a fan of that lackluster ending. C.
Man, Dad's finally done with whatever he's been working on for the past few months. Maybe we'll finally get to see him in person.
Now, son, brush your teeth and don't steal. Daughter, feed the puppy.
Oh yeah, we used to have a puppy, didn't we?
Number 35 is Lice. This is one of the only episodes where the over-the-top and ridiculousness doesn't come from either Zim or Dib. Instead, it shows that society, or at least the school system, is unhinged. But for good reason. The episode starts with a kid having lice in school, and shit hits the fan immediately. The school instantly goes on lockdown, while kids are corralled and herded around to try to prevent this outbreak. Led by a mad woman who thinks this is an apocalyptic event she needs to stop, with Dib thinking she's completely overreacting. However, it's revealed in the end that she was completely right, and she does battle with the Lice Queen, who seemingly was going to destroy the world. She manages to defeat the Queen, with the unwilling help of Zim, because Erkin's skin kills lice on contact, so she shoves him into a gun and shoots his skin like an acid thrower, leaving Zim horribly mangled at the end. I can understand people have this ranked higher than I do, especially if you like the over-the-top and outrageous nature of this episode. For me, I thought it was enjoyable. I wouldn't say it was anything spectacular though. It did have good jokes though, so there's that. The only thing that brings it down is this girl right here. While I enjoyed the concept of this woman randomly teaming up with a student and dragging her everywhere, this girl was just so damn annoying and wouldn't shut up, bringing the episode down to a C+.
The two clean ones will be taken to a special area for immunity research.
This is insane! Isn't this a bit much for just an outbreak of lice?
Number 34 is Dib Ship Rising. This episode starts with Dib working on the Erkin spaceship that he got in a much better episode. That I'll talk about later. When working on it, he changes the ship's AI to have his personality, which does work. Too well. Not only does it have his personality, it has Dib's memories, and thinks it's the real Dib. The Dib ship then makes itself look like Dib and tries to go to school, scaring a lot of people. At school, it sees Zim and thinks he must be behind why there are two Dibs now. However, confronting Zim goes terribly for the ship. Say what you will about Zim being an idiot, but one thing you can't say about him is he doesn't know how to use Erkin technology, leading him to take control of the ship and use it to kidnap Dib, wanting the ship to assumably drown Dib in the city's cesspool. Which, damn, talk about an awful fate. However, Dib reaches out to the Dib ship, convincing it to join his side by talking about their shared memories and experiences, leading the ship to defeat Zim, and then rationalize being Dib is a horrible existence, which he says to Dib. It then spends the rest of the episode removing Dib's memories from himself, in front of Dib. So this was a good plot. I liked it touching upon existentialism, where it makes you question if having someone's full memories makes you that person or not. It was an interesting concept, but I think this probably could have been executed better. Maybe if it was a full episode it would have came off better. The thing I really didn't like about this episode was the ending. Did you really just need to rag on Dib again? Some would say that this shows that Dib doesn't actually like himself. But this just falls in line with the typical season 2. Constantly insulting and mocking Dib, and his supposedly large head. C+.
Good morning. I guess I'll be walking.
Number 33 is Mega Doomer. This episode was about Zim being accidentally given a massive killer robot, called the Mega Doomer X3 Combat Stealth Mech. And of course, his first thought with it is, go kill Dib. Zim activates the Mega Doomer's cloaking device, and the robot goes invisible. Unknowingly to Zim, he doesn't. He then tries marching down the street with the killer robot. But it doesn't get that far before the Mega Doomer powers down, because it needs to be plugged in. And this is my massive problem with this episode. The robot is not something Zim created. It is top of the line next gen Irkin technology. And it needs to be plugged in? That is the dumbest thing I ever heard. Imagine if a high-tech military jet always needed to be plugged in. It would be completely useless. Also, this is a stealth mech, meaning it was made for stealth operations. And it doesn't make the user go invisible? That would ruin any stealth mission it would be part of. While Autolites are often depicted as kinda dumb, the Irkin Armada isn't, especially when it comes to their freaking technology. They are the conquerors of the galaxy because of their tech. And having these massive flaws in their newest mech is just freaking stupid, and contrary to what has been depicted with the Irkins. The episode ends with Zim realizing everyone can see him, and self-destructs the mech. This is probably the dumbest plot ever on the show. The only reason it isn't amongst the truly bad episodes of the series is the fact that it's a really funny episode. It's one of the times that the humor really makes up for the plot. And it brings it up to a C+.
My robot hits yours with swarmers!
I counter with a wave pulse!
I'm not playing with you anymore!
Number 32 is the sad, sad tale of Chickenfoot. This episode is about Dib trying to defend the reputation of paranormal investigation, when he goes out and tries to prove that the mysterious Chickenfoot is just a man in a costume, which of course he clearly is. But people don't believe him when he says that, not even Chickenfoot. He tries to take Chickenfoot to the doctor to prove he's just a man, but when they try to unzip the costume, Chickenfoot makes a break for it. He doesn't get that far though, and the episode ends with Dib unzipping the costume, and Chickenfoot falling out of it in front of a crowd of people. Then Dib explains to the crowd that paranormal investigators don't just think everything is real, they also disprove things that aren't. But the crowd now just thinks everything isn't real. Fun fact, this is one of Eric Trueheart's favorite episodes, who's one of the main writers for the series. It's also one of Zim's voice actor's least favorite episodes, because Zim isn't in it, which makes sense for him. For me, I found this to be a fun episode to watch. I, much like Dib, really enjoy the paranormal and supernatural, and would call out complete BS like Chickenfoot. One thing Dib really didn't understand though, is Chickenfoot isn't just an idiot. He was a man that survived a horrible explosion. And this whole Chickenfoot thing was a result of his trauma from it. At least that's what I think. While I did enjoy the episode, I do think it was rather rushed, and they could have done more with it. Also, it could have used a lot more and better jokes. I mean, the main joke in the episode is everyone is an idiot, just told again and again. C+.
Chickenfoot was a fraud all along!
This just proves that paranormal studies isn't a bunch of crazies believing in anything. We also disprove the frauds.
I bet this means Bigfoot is a fraud too!
And UFOs!
And hobos! No, wait! Those are real! Except the hobos. Wait, no, they're real, I guess, but what's wrong with you people?
Number 31 is germs. After watching a movie where aliens are defeated by germs, Zim buys micro goggles to see germs and finds them everywhere, becoming a paranoid germaphobe, and going on a cleaning crusade, which involves kicking Gur out of the house. It ends with him finding out that the burgers at McMeaty's rather suspiciously have no germs on them, even when there's clearly a dead bug on the patty, and are made out of old napkins, resulting in Zim going to school completely covered in meat. So this is a quasi non-inclusion ending, as he seemingly gets over his germophobia, and isn't wearing meat in any other episode, so I guess he got cured, or something. Or there might have been a side effect from when Bloney entered his DNA, making him forever immune to the germs, which I would accept as my headcanon if they didn't say the burgers were made completely out of used napkins. So I enjoyed this episode, but watching someone go crazy with germophobia while you know people with those problems makes it not the easiest to sit through. I also wasn't the biggest fan of the ending. I mean, was he just going to be covered in meat his whole life? But there was a plethora of great jokes in this one, which makes up for his shortcomings. C+.
What are we going to do? In only a matter of hours, the alien scourge will bring the human race to its knees. I know. Let's build a giant space station, evacuate all the people, and live among the stars. There's not enough time for that. Can we build a small space station and just evacuate all the scientists?
Number 30 is the invasion of the idiot dog brain. This is the episode where Gur becomes Zim's house, accidentally overtaking the house AI with his own, and he becomes a menace to Zim. Which is where we see one of the most unbelievable moments in the series, where they tell us Zim waits a year for Gur to give up and finally listen to him. Zim has never been depicted with that sort of patience. He was way more likely to snap within the first couple of minutes. I have heard a writer say that the year was just a joke and it was more likely a week. But I don't think Zim could have lasted a week, especially with how annoying Gur was being. So after the year, and or possibly week, Gur sees a commercial for tacos and does the obvious thing. Turn the house into a giant kaiju and run through the city to get a taco, causing havoc and panic in his wake. Naturally. I mean, who wouldn't do that for a taco? This includes destroying a man's brand new expensive car, which, fun fact, is actually based on Gur's voice actor getting a new car. And the crew thought it would be funny to destroy it in the episode. I just love hearing about little things like that. The episode ends with Gur returning to his body, to of course actually be able to eat the taco, leading to the universal answer to all of life's problems: eating tacos. I do prefer burgers though. While this episode's plot was fun, there wasn't a whole lot of plot in this episode. I mean, it wasn't bad, it just could have been better. But, like the past couple of entries, the humor makes up for that. This was a hilarious episode, so that mixed with the weak plot gives this episode a C+.
There were some glitches in the security system, but thanks to my masterful repair skills, they've all been eradicated. The fortress is now impenetrable. Absolutely.
Who's that little person behind you?
What the? There you are! What did I tell you about wandering off like that? Come on! I missed you, Mommy!
I'm glad it had a happy ending after all.
Me too.
Number 29 is Walk of Doom. This episode is about Zim upgrading Gur with a new guidance chip, which upon initial tests, Gur is doing very well, leading Zim to take Gur into the city, where you constantly hear screaming, gunshots, and explosions. Isn't that a lovely place to live? When Zim thoroughly considers himself lost, he tries to get Gur to guide them home, which Gur can't because he removed his guidance chip, to make room for a cupcake. The rest of the episode is about Zim navigating this hellscape of a city, which at one point involves him having to jump off a skyscraper to escape the police. He eventually gets himself a taxi and tells the driver to take him home, so the guy drives him to Mexico for some reason. Okay, sure. The end.
Maybe it's because he's an illegal alien.
Oh my god. That could be it.
Yeah, that's probably it.
But how did he know?
He's a little green man. You watched the entire series and you didn't listen to Dib once? Now, granted, as someone who shares Zim's dream to conquer Earth, I can understand a desire to ignore Dib. But in this instance, he is right.
I guess Dib never realized a single taxi driver in the city was on his side.
It's actually one of the tragedies of the story, really.
You know, I guess it really is. Anyway, while I did enjoy Zim getting lost in the city, I do think there's a glaring plot hole with it. I'm pretty sure Zim can summon his spaceship anytime he wants, which would basically undo the entire plot of the episode. But that's minor compared to the sheer lack of humor in this episode. This was when the episode was aiming to be funny, and it failed. But hey, at least it's one of Zim's voice actors' favorite episodes. So there's that. But for me, it's a C+.
How could you not know? I just upgraded your guidance system.
Oh, I left that at home.
You left what at home?
The guidey chippy thingy.
Why would you do that?
Make room for the cupcake.
Number 20 is The Girl Who Cried Gnome. This episode is about a girl named Muffy, one of the legendary Girly Rangers, which is basically a mixture of the Powerpuff Girls and the Girl Scouts. While trying to sell Zim cookies at his house, she gets her foot stuck in a hole on his lawn, which immediately triggers a media storm around the situation, to the point the President of the United States personally shows up to try to deal with it. And this is the time where Zim being concerned the entire Earth might uncover him is the most valid. Heck, it doesn't come up, but I'd be concerned about the Secret Service abducting him, and then vivisecting him, like those sons of bitches did to Jerry at Roswell. You bastards. Anyway, emergency services keep trying to free her. But Muffy screams every time they get close to her, because she's loving this attention she's getting. The episode ends with Zim sneaking up to Muffy and freeing her, before she can do anything about it, which immediately de-escalates everything, even though Muffy tries to stick her foot back in the hole. I enjoyed this episode. I mean, the plot was really nothing to write home about, but this episode gave us Muffy and the Girly Rangers, which apparently are a fan favorite. I mean, I thought they were awesome. Make a Girly Rangers spin-off series, you cowards. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Nickelodeon doesn't seem to be too fond of the Girly Rangers. For some reason, this episode was almost cancelled by Nick. They say it's because of 9/11, which I don't understand why. It's not like it's Walk for Your Lives, where the city explodes. I can only guess they didn't like the parody of George Bush, which, to be fair, was hands down the worst part of the episode. And it did bring it down a good bit in my eyes. Back when this episode was made, George Bush parodies were just low-hanging fruit. And Invader Zim's better than that. All it did was show this series' age. And that makes it a C+.
Excellent, Gopher. Just as I programmed you to do. Now, complete your task! I don't remember programming that.
Number 27 is FBI Warning of Doom. This episode starts with Gert getting a call from a movie rental store, where they yell at him to return the movie he rented, or he will pay late fees. Gert simply hangs up and keeps watching the movie. Zim then enters and is annoyed about how much Gert is watching that movie. And when he restarts it for the 100th time, Zim sees the FBI warning at the beginning of it, which concerns him. His computer then gives him the lowdown on the FBI. How these monsters hunt aliens to the ends of the earth.
Bastards!
Exactly. So Zim rightfully panics, and thinks he must return the movie before the FBI catches on to him. But the mall where the rental store is located is currently closed, leading him to have to sneak in to return the movie. And that's where he encounters the main antagonist of the episode, Sergeant Slabwrinkle, the rather insane rent-a-cop who takes his job way too seriously. He manages to capture Zim and confiscate the DVD, but Zim quickly escapes, after screwing over the other Slabwrinkle hostages. He then manages to steal back the DVD, leading Slabwrinkle to unleash a horde of zombies. who are unimpressive and useless. Zim then returns to the movie. After that, Slaverinkle offers Zim to join him so they can rule the mall together. Which of course Zim turns him down, because it's a freaking mall. So this episode was decent. I enjoyed Sergeant Slaverinkle, he was fun. I wasn't too big on the anticlimactic horde of zombies at the end. Also, this is one of the episodes that really shows the age of the series. I mean, it's about returning a DVD to a movie rental store inside of a mall. Just saying that sentence made me feel old. So I'm giving it a C+.
Founded in 1492 by demons, the FBI is a crack law enforcement agency designed to, I don't know, fight aliens?
Knew it!
Number 26 is Dib's Wonderful Life of Doom. This episode starts with Dib in the cafeteria. And deep in his soul, he needs to do something to Zim. So he does one of the most heinous things he can think of.
What? Who?
That was horrible.
That monster. Then, when he's in bed at night, two aliens appear in his room. And after seeing the sick lengths Dib was willing to go to stop Zim, they think he can be the key to ending Zim once and for all. And decide to give him superpowers for his fight. Superpowers are never fully explored to what he can actually do. Seemingly anything he puts his mind to. Like he's capable of convincing Zim to surrender to Earth. With very little effort. We then see Dib go through an incredible life, where he solves mysteries and proves ghosts and monsters are real, and eventually even defeats the Urkin Armada, all while constantly having a new, young girlfriend by his side. And then we see him as an old man, regaling an interviewer about his incredible life. Then the interviewer has one final question.
Did you throw the muffin at Zim's head?
Wow, that's going back a long ways. As a matter of fact, I did.
So yeah, it was all a lie by Zim. Which, I'm kind of conflicted on whether this was a cruel thing to do to Dib or not. Think about this. You live your entire life, and just when you become old and gray, assumingly nearing the end, you instantly become a child again. That sounds like a great thing to me. But for Dib, I don't know. Dib lived an incredible life, one that he could probably never replicate, and then finding out it was all fake? That's a tough pill to swallow. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on this situation. This was a really fun episode and I enjoyed the plot a lot, but that ending has me conflicted on everything. So I'm gonna give it a B-.
Oh, just one more thing.
Number 25 is Vindicated. In this episode, Dib meets a new guidance counselor, Mr. Dwicky, who replaced the old guidance counselor after something horrible happened to him, where we then hear a weekend help me in the vents. Which, fun fact, if you want to call it that, was voted the absolute most disturbing scene from Invader Zim. And that's understandable. I'm not sure if I would have voted the most disturbing scene. I mean, maybe Dib dying in Bad Bad Rubber Piggy, or that toilet scene I showed earlier, but the vents still might get the vote. Anyway, Dib meets the guidance counselor, and for the first time, someone in the school actually believes him about Zim. And Mr. Dwicky agrees to help him uncover proof. Unfortunately for Dib, the counselor doesn't actually believe him, and thinks that helping Dib is a way that he can get Dib to open up about his problems. This is until the end of the episode, where actual aliens show up, who invite Mr. Dwicky to go with them on a space adventure. Which I would absolutely take them up on this offer. I mean, who in their right mind wouldn't? I guess people who don't want to leave their friends and family, and may potentially never see them again. But screw those people, I'm gonna go to space, and I would want them to do the same if they got the offer. In the end, this was a good episode. It's a season 2 episode, so as I was watching the series in order, I can firmly say it felt good seeing someone actually be nice to Dib, Everyone is a freaking a-hole to Dib in season 2. The worst being the writers. You pricks. So even if Mr. Dwicky was deceiving him, he did genuinely want to help Dib and was nice to him. So it was a good episode. It wasn't great, but good. B-.
A real spaceship! Spaceship! And you fly through the stars, seeing all the universe? Yeah, well, flying through the stars would be pretty stupid, man. But yeah, we fly around.
Number 24 is Gur Goes Crazy and Stuff. This is the episode where Zim fixes Gur, turning him into a fully functioning SIR unit, which seems positive for Zim, at first. Until Gur abducts a police officer, who sees both of them without their disguises, leading Zim to replace his brain with a squid's brain, while Gur is forced to watch TV to gather intelligence, which makes him bitter and angry. He then decides to gather his own intelligence by attacking the library, draining knowledge from people's brains. Upon learning what Gur's up to through the police walkie-talkie, Zim goes down to the library to stop Gur, only for Gur to turn against him, considering Zim to be too stupid to conquer Earth and therefore be a threat to the mission. Which we found out earlier in the SIR unit code. Free will can be enabled if the mission is threatened. Zim tries to appeal to Gur, getting him to think about the time they spent together.
Gur, you were my servant once, remember?
Yes, I didn't like it.
Which I can only think is fueling some crazy conspiracy theory that says normal Gur isn't crazy, but intentionally sabotaging Zim because he doesn't like him. And if you never heard that before, well, you have now. And I stand behind it 100%. Prove me wrong, skeptics. After this moment, Gur almost kills Zim. But the day is saved by Officer Squidman. And the episode ends with Zim and normal Gur taking the officer back to the ocean, where he gets eaten by a shark. Hooray! It was fun to see what Gur would actually be like if he was a real SIR unit. And apparently, things would go horribly wrong, for Zim at least. And assumably Earth. The biggest thing holding this episode back is its sheer lack of humor. I mean, they tried, but a lot of the jokes weren't that funny. But it was a solid plot, so it gets a B-.
No playing with the dirty cow monsters, Gur! This is serious work we do. We'll switch! You man the tractor beam. I'll pump the cows full of human sewage.
Cows are my friends.
I don't like you.
Number 23 is Bloaty's Pizza Hog. This episode is about Gaz getting to choose where their annual family dinner night is. And she chooses Bloaty's Pizza Hog. But Dib isn't home, as he attempted to sneak into Zim's base to gather proof that he's an alien. Gaz doesn't care at first, but with Dib being gone, her dad says they need to postpone Bloaty's till next year. And Gaz isn't about that life. She then marches into Zim's base and demands Gur to tell her where Dib is, who complies without issue. Gur leads Gaz to a teleporter that takes her to Zim's space station, where Dib is being held captive. Gaz goes up to the tank and frees Dib with a simple kick that shatters containment. Dib tries to convince her to help stop Zim, but she's like, screw that, they gotta go to Bloaty's. The episode ends with a cool space chase, as Gaz stole one of Zim's ships to escape the station and Zim hunts her down. She then crashes at Bloaty's, where Zim follows, but he is scared off by the animatronics. And this is where Five Nights at Freddy's was born. No, not really. So another solid outing. Wasn't the best, but it was good. B.
You know Dad's taking us out tonight. I picked Bloaty's.
This is bigger than pizza, Gaz. This is the fate of all mankind.
You and your mankind.
Number 22 is Zim Eats Waffles. And yep, that's the episode. Zim eating waffles. And it's a damn good episode. Eat those waffles, Zim. Obviously, there's more to the episode than him eating waffles. It's about Dib having a spy camera in Zim's kitchen, and is waiting for Zim to do or reveal something on camera, which he gets close to doing several times. But things keep happening off screen, preventing Dib from learning anything. And there's a lot of crazy things actually happening off screen, ending with a massive battle of Zim fighting escaped monsters and the authorities. So yeah, it's just Zim eating waffles. I do think it's one of the best times of a show using something happening off screen to great effect. Not just for Invader Zim, but for any show. Apparently Watch Mojo ranked this the #1 Invader Zim episode. Which, come on guys, I wouldn't go that far. It's still just Zim eating waffles. Fun fact, according to the DVD commentary, this was a throwaway episode they made to save money for other episodes' budgets. But unfortunately, those episodes didn't get made because the show got cancelled. Which is sad. But we still got Zim eating waffles. B.
Hey, these aren't bad. What's in them?
There's waffle in them!
You're lying!
Number 21 is the Voting of the Doomed. This episode is about Zim running for school president. After the last school president dared to say there was something wrong with the school. The person he's running up against is a student named Willie, who isn't right in the head. But Dib decided to help Willie with his campaign, to stop Zim from becoming president. And he does generally a good job, except for when he did something for his own self-interest, trying to get the school to praise him, resulting in the school turning against Willie. But he recovers well. However, once Willie starts getting cheered from the crowd, he turns against Dib, and starts making wild claims, which gets him more cheers, leading to Willie to win the election. And this was possibly the greatest thing Dib has ever done for Zim, because Willie gets brainwashed by the evil school board, and now acts like an entirely different person. The end. I thought it was really fun to see a school presidential campaign in Invader Zim. Of course, it's horribly altered. Poor Willie. I like to think if the show continued, the evil school board would have reappeared. I think they could have been interesting antagonists for Zim and Dib. Honestly, besides Dib, they seem like the only thing on Earth that would actually provide resistance against Zim. Apparently a lot of people don't like this episode, mostly because they think it was rushed, which I can understand to a degree. But it's far from a bad episode. It's a solid B.
As president, I will ensure that all mankind has its legs sawed off!
I don't know about that.
Number 20 is Hobo 13. This episode is about Zim essentially being sent to boot camp to be a better soldier for the Arkham Armada. And if he succeeds, he'll be rewarded equipment to help him conquer Earth. And this is where we see the return of Scooge! One of the best characters on the show. Fun fact, if the show continued, Scooge was eventually going to end up living in Zim's basement, which a lot of fans accept this is happening still. Even when he didn't appear and enter the floor piss, people thought he was just in the basement the whole time. So, during the training session, Zim appoints himself leader. Then systematically, and rather cleverly sometimes, screws over all of his teammates. The teammates he was supposed to be leading. This all ends with Zim being the only one to reach the final objective, the Fortress of Pain, after using his last teammate as a battering ram to open the doors. He then has a climactic, albeit short, fight with the drill sergeant, where he shows himself to be a capable combatant, and skilled at coming up with plans and strategies, as well as effectively using Urkin technology to his advantage. He was just dick about it the whole time. And his reward for finishing boot camp was getting sent to the sun. I really enjoyed the plot of this episode. Seeing the Urkin boot camp was really cool, and I like seeing more unique species in the universe. That was fun. And of course we get Scooge, so this episode is instantly a good one. I would have ranked it even higher if it wasn't for the biggest problem with this episode, which was just how much of an a-hole Zim was. I mean, yeah, he's trying to conquer and or destroy Earth, but there's a difference between over-the-top comic book supervillainy and just being a dick. Which Zim was the latter in this episode? B.
With my mighty fists of horror and unstoppable cruelty, I am the tool of destruction, vengeance, and fury!
I only ask for your name! Next!
I am Thrabulator! I am a creature of pure headache! Yeah, my head!
Your names, that's all I want!
Number 19 is Mysterious Mysteries. This is one of the most unique episodes of the series, as it's mostly shown as an episode of Dib's favorite TV show, Mysterious Mysteries, and the main character of the episode is the host of the TV show. It's about Dib capturing footage of Zim and Gur without their disguises and sending it to the show, with the host trying to understand what happened that night, where we see reenactments from the perspectives of Dib, Gaz, Zim, and Gur. Or in Gur's case, the perspective of a chubby lady hiding in the bushes. This leads to a lot of nonsense back and forth between the characters, leading the host just to call everyone crazy before having a mental breakdown. Then we find out the episode got great ratings, making the host snap even more. The end. I often enjoy it when TV shows do something that isn't typical for their standard episodes. And I think doing an episode of Mysterious Mysteries was a solid idea for Invader Zim. B.
Kids, play without fear in the streets of this humble hamlet. In fact, it's the kind of place where you don't even have to lock the door.
Who are you? Get out of my house!
Number 18 is Mortos der Soul Stealer. Now, I could be wrong about this, but as far as I'm aware, this was the first time in the series where magic is proven to be real. The other notable time is in Gaz, Taster of Pork. It's also when Dib thinks the only true way to defeat Zim is with the use of magic powers as opposed to advanced technology. And that's where Mortos der Soul Stealer comes in, a mystical being from the underworld, or the place beneath the overworld. Thanks, Nickelodeon censors. You guys know you had a series about ghosts, right? But back to Mortos. He seems to have the power to grant wishes, so I guess he's some sort of necrogenie. But he can't grant a wish until he recharges energy, much to Dib's annoyance, as Mortos constantly wants more and more things to recharge his energy, while all Dib wants is for Mortos to steal Zim's soul. Is that too much to ask for? The episode ends with Mortos finally ready to grant a wish, while Dib is in the middle of an argument with Zim, leading to some random guy to wish for an ice cream. And his wish is granted. Then Mortos leaves, but not before calling Dib an ingrate, which screw you, Mortos. Then Dib gets arrested. This is another season 2 episode where Dib is mistreated the entire time, but it could be worse. He was mostly just annoyed the whole time. I did enjoy the introduction of magic to the world, and I do think it would have been really cool to see Dib go down a more magical path to defeat Zim. I'm not sure if this would have truly happened though. Apparently this is Jonan Vasquez's least favorite episode, which I don't know what his problem with it was, because I think it was a solid B.
I'm going to stop you! I've got a secret weapon!
Where is it?
Around!
Can it protect you from...
Damn it!
Number 17 is the wet inning. This episode is about Dib learning that water will burn Zim's skin, which he uses that information to psychologically torment him, until throwing a water balloon at him. Then the gauntlet is thrown down. A water balloon fight. We see the two prepare for the fight, where Dib makes an interesting water balloon weapon, while Zim focuses on the usage of paste to counteract the water's effect on him. We then get to the fight where Dib is ready to go, launching a water balloon at Zim, only to learn it's a hologram. And then we see Zim in space, with the world's largest water balloon, which he proceeds to destroy the city with, and totally wins the fight. This episode has a lot of confusion amongst fans, focusing on Zim's anatomy, because there are plenty of episodes after this one where Zim gets wet, like getting sprayed with a hose, or going into the water. Although, the answer to this was mentioned in the DVD commentary, where they say Zim is completely covered in paste at all times, which is much easier to hide than being completely covered in meat, like in the Germs episode. This was a really fun plot. I enjoyed them focusing on something more childish like a water balloon fight, but ramped up to the extreme of course. I do think it was lacking in jokes, however the plot makes up for this. B+.
So, young man, now you see that there's a price to pay for eating paste. Would you say that losing the use of your mouth was worth it?
Number 16 is A Room with a Moose. The episode starts with Zim watching video of all the kids being jerks to him. So he says, screw them all, and have them all believe they're going on a special field trip, with only Dib questioning why Zim isn't going, thinking he has to be up to something, which he quickly learns he is, as he launches the fake field trip bus into space, and intends to send them all into a wormhole, with the dreaded room with a moose waiting for them on the other side. Dib tries to tell the other kids what's happening, but these kids are as big of a-holes to Dib as they are to Zim, if not worse, especially in this episode, leading Dib to rightfully question if they're even worth saving. But he does decide yes. He uncovers on his computer that there's a fork before the wormhole, and if he gets everyone to sit on one side of the bus, they can go home, which the other kids don't because Dib's sitting on that side. So of course, Dib goes over to the other side, making all the kids move to the opposite one. And he saves all these ungrateful bastards. While this was a rather simple plot, I did find it very entertaining. The only downside of this episode was all the other kids, which they can be jerks in other episodes, but it was really ramped up in this one. But the episode is still a B+.
Now, Dib, I leave you to your moosey fate. Say moosey fate! Your moosey fate.
Number 15 is Abducted. I absolutely love the idea for this episode. This is where Zim gets abducted by aliens. And the aliens who abducted him think he's human because of this.
I'm human, yep, human. Just look at my neck.
Pretty convincing.
Well, that can't be denied. Apparently, Joan and Vasquez really wanted these two to be idiots to counter the idea that all aliens had to be geniuses because they're capable of space travel. Which makes sense in this universe. Invader Zim has shown numerous alien species casually traveling around space. It's more likely another species, like the Irkins, came to their planet, and that's how they got spaceflight. Like how a lot of people can drive cars, but that doesn't mean they know how to build them. So this episode is about Zim escaping the aliens, which he does with relative ease, because Zim may have been shown to be an idiot a lot of times. But these two are even bigger idiots. This is easily one of the funniest episodes in the series. The main reason this isn't higher is because these abductors can get really annoying during this episode. Especially when they just go, yeah, that alone lowers it. And I do feel bad for this little blob guy that Zim abandons on the ship. However, these things only lower it a bit, to an A-.
Wait! You're hovering above an Earth neighborhood in plain sight?
Do you think we're stupid? We're using advanced cloaking technology, aren't we? Our ship is disguised and perfectly unnoticeable.
Look at that! It's one of them orca whales.
Number 14 is Career Day. As the title implies, it's career day at school, where Zim gets to work as a fry cook at McMeady's, which he believes if he becomes in charge of the company, he'll rule the earth. While Dib gets paired up with his dream job, a paranormal investigator. Unfortunately, this doesn't go the way he would have hoped, as this investigator named Bill is more of a crackpot, believing in things like cereal mascots being real, but doesn't believe Dib that Zim is an alien. This is also the expert who talks about Chickenfoot or mysterious mysteries. Dib uncovers that Zim is going through an alien molting, which is a theory he learns from Bill, but he doesn't believe in it. Dib believes that if he just goes to see Zim today, the investigator will believe him. He tricks Bill into going to McMeady's to see Zim by telling him the cereal mascot Count Choco Fang will be there. Unfortunately for Dib, the Fang is actually next door. Then this episode ends with one of the most disgusting moments in the series, as Zim begins to molt and consumes the restaurant, which Bill misses completely because he was confronting Count Choco Fang. And Zim gets fired, stopping his path of becoming head of McMeady's. This was a great episode. It had a fun and engaging story, and was filled to the brim with jokes. The only thing that brings it down is that molting scene. While Invader Zim does have gross out moments from time to time, that was just too much. But it's still an A.
What does identifying blotches have to do with determining our future careers?
Oh, you poor doomed child.
Number 13 is Backseat Drivers from Beyond the Stars. This episode is about Zim wanting to get the almighty Tallest to come to Earth to see his latest plan, which involves a brainium monster to eat humanity's brains. He's trying to get the Tallest to come because this is the closest they have ever been to Earth. But they ignore him, naturally. So what does Zim do? Get the schematics and command chair of the Tallest's ship to remotely take control of it. Doing it just when they are confronted by a resistance group known as the Resisti, who planned to go after the Urkin flagship. Normally, the Resisti wouldn't stand a chance against the Urkins, but when Zim takes control of their ship, the Resisti capitalizes and strikes. Unfortunately for Zim, Dib has a spy camera in his base and learns what he's doing, and with Tak's ship, he usurps Zim's control of the ship to try to destroy it, leading to a battle control between Dib and Zim, where we see the Tallest ship go through a freaking sun. Damn, that's a powerful ship. Dib does get control of the ship for a bit, as things just go haywire in Zim's base. But eventually Zim activates the Urkin security on Tak's ship, making Dib lose control. However, the Tallest switch out their power core with the Resisti's power core, making Zim in control of the Resisti's ship. But when the Resistis lose control of their ship, they activate the Shrinky self-destruct, so the Urkins can't get their hands on it. Then Zim threatens to land the Tallest ship on Dib's head, but the Resisti ship shows up, and slowly gets smaller and smaller and smaller before exploding. The episode ends with the Tallest trying to confront Zim about what he did, just to see Zim being attacked by the brain-eating monster. This episode was a massive comedy of errors for nearly everyone involved. I love seeing the Resisti. I thought they were a cool faction. There was a rumor that they were eventually going to team up with Dib to go against the Urkins, but that never happened. This was their only episode. But it was a damn good episode. It's actually Jonan Vasquez's and Gur's voice actor's favorite episode. But to me, there are so many good episodes of Invader Zim that just kept pushing this one down the list. But it's still an A.
That's the Massive out there. My people designed most of that thing, so I know how powerful it is. We're gonna die! Whose idea was this?
Mine. Sorry about that.
Number 12 is Nano Zim. This episode starts with Dib sneaking into Zim's house and getting proof that Zim's an alien, intending to send it to mysterious mysteries. So what does Zim do about this? Well, obviously, he shrinks himself nano-size and goes into Dib's body, taking control of his arms and destroying the evidence. But Dib says he has other copies, leading Zim to go to his brain to find out where the copies are. And might as well destroy his brain while he's up there, resulting in Dib consuming a nano ship made by his dad and hunting Zim down within his own body. They proceed to have an epic small robot fight, until Zim shoots Dib's nerves, making him lose control of his limbs. This leads to Gaz taking over the robot, thinking this is just a game. She hunts down Zim, who has made it to Dib's brain, and has made him forget where the evidence was. But before Zim can do any more damage, Gaz shows up and kicks Zim's ass. Then Dib goes to the bathroom to get rid of Zim. This is one of the few episodes that doesn't focus on comedy. It's all about the action. And it's some damn good action. The mech fights were freaking awesome. And I love the concept that this all happened within one of the combatants' bodies. It was a great place for a tiny mech fight. A.
Dad, I need your help.
The world needs my help, son.
Do you still have that microscopic nanoship thing you were working on?
Of course. The controls are over there. Why do you need this, son?
There's an alien in my guts, and he's trying to destroy my brain!
Well, run along then.
Number 11 is to fry cook what came from all that space. This episode starts with Dib snapping at the class about how Zim is obviously an alien, but they just don't believe him. Then a massive alien bursts through the ceiling, abducts Zim, and shouts back to outer space. And the class still just isn't buying that Zim's an alien. We then go to Zim confronting his captor, and we learn it is Sizzlor, the man who was in charge of Zim's banishment to Fukuria, after what Zim did during Operation Impending Doom 1. We learn that Zim ran away from Sizzlor just as the Great Food started, which kept Sizzlor without help for 20 years. How was it 20 years when Zim wasn't gone for that long?
There's a time warp thing involved. I don't know.
We then see Zim having to go back to banishment, working at Sizzlor's restaurant, with the Great Food starting soon, which will leave Zim trapped for 20 years. And if he tries to escape, he will explode. When he starts work, we see a stall Sizzlor left dirty just for him. We then proceed to see Zim suffer through working, until we see him talking to the restaurant's best customer, Eric the Blob, who is a security technician, and Zim learns that prisoners got around exploding by hiding in garbage cans, which gives Zim an idea. He hides in Eric's food, and Eric eats him, allowing him to escape the building. But Sizzler sees him outside, and we get an epic chase scene through the city, which Zim escapes Sizzler just moments before the great fooning begins. I absolutely love them developing Zim's banishment more. It was basically just a sentence in the first episode. And yeah, it was a funny joke, but that's all it was. And the fact the writer said, let's expand on that, that was just so awesome. Even though this episode doesn't break my top 10, it doesn't mean this isn't an amazing episode. It just shows how good the top 10 is. But honestly, when it comes to the top episodes of Invader Zim, it gets to a point of splitting hairs when it comes to ranking them. And this is an amazing episode, and fully deserves an A+.
Okay, so... Zim is an alien! Why do I even have to try to prove it this much? Come on, just look at him!
I sure like TV. And wearing pants.
He likes wearing pants, Dib. Aliens don't like wearing pants.
Number 10 is Attack of the Saucer Morons. This episode is about Zim crashing his alien ship in the park. Because of a bee. He crashes right where a UFO convention was going to be held, leading to a massive crowd surrounding the vessel, before Zim could cover it up and take it away. Then when he tries to recover his ship, he accidentally reveals himself as an alien to the onlookers, leading them to revere him. He is eventually saved by Gurr as Government Man, but the crowd questions Government Man, leading to Zim and Gurr having to ride the pig, escaping with an awesome scene flying through the city. That is until the bee returns, crashing Zim's ship at an even bigger UFO convention. The end. I love this plot. Crashing a ship is just a classic alien thing to do. Another classic thing is having a group of people with wild speculations as to what it is. Like that one person who called the Voot Cruiser a ship of love. And these nutjobs are the sort of people I can see worshipping aliens. So bow before me, peasants. But yeah, this was an amazing episode. And apparently it's number 63 in the top 100 greatest moments in Nicktoons history. So that's a fun achievement. So is getting an A+.
Hi!
Grr, finally! I need your help. I've been captured.
Yay!
No, that's bad, Gurr.
Number 9 is the most horrible Xmas ever. Ah yes, the Invader Zim Christmas episode. Anyone who's seen it knows it was going to be high on this list. And if you're anything like me, you will at some point sing the Jolly Boots of Doom song during the holidays. Fun fact, or I guess not so fun fact, this is the last Invader Zim episode that was ever made. It was in development when the show got cancelled, and Nickelodeon let them finish the episode before calling it quits. So I guess thanks, Nick, but also screw you. Now let's talk about the episode. It starts 2 million years in the future, with a robotic snowman telling children about the most horrible Christmas ever. We then see Zim trying to get money on the street, with Gurr and Minnie Moose, who has been with Zim the whole time. Unfortunately for Zim, he's not really making money from this endeavor, but sees numerous Santas on the street making money. So he kidnaps a Santa to figure out why, and learns all about Santa Claus, leading Zim to think that Santa has a great power over people. After this, he makes a Santa suit, with Santa DNA ingrained into every molecule of it. This allows him to essentially control the population, and I'm pretty sure it's the closest Zim ever came to conquering Earth. However, since the suit has Santa DNA so ingrained into it, it slowly starts taking over, and Zim begins to act like Santa. Zim tries to suppress this with Irken technology, but at one point he is consumed by the suit. However, Dib catches on to Zim's plan, and with the help of his father's technology, he attempts to stop Zim and free all the people. This all ends in a massive Santa kaiju battle, and Dib actually saving Zim from Santa. And the Santa suit is launched into space. But now, it comes back every Christmas to wreak havoc on Earth. The end. This is not just an amazing Invader Zim episode, but an amazing Christmas episode. If you don't watch this every Christmas, you need to change that. A+.
I don't get it! Why does he want to take over the Earth so badly? What does he have to gain or to lose? And the mechanizations of this malfunctioning Santa suit completely elude me.
As I was saying.
Number 8 is The Nightmare Begins. Yes, the show where it all began. For anyone who hasn't seen this episode, what are you doing watching this video? I'd be shocked if anyone clicked on this video without seeing the first episode of Invader Zim. But if you did, I find you to be a very interesting person. For those who don't know, or more likely don't remember, this episode starts with a great assigning for Operation Impending Doom 2, the Irken's intention of conquering space. When they are assigning invaders, they hear a dreadfully familiar voice, Zim, the man who was single-handedly responsible for ruining Operation Impending Doom 1 by attacking the Irken homeworld and killing all the other invaders. Zim is insisting on being a part of Impending Doom 2, which the Tallest see as an opportunity to send them far away from anything they're doing, to a possible planet? They then give him a Sura unit that they literally make from trash, and that's where we get Grr. Then Zim and Grr make their way to the mysterious planet. That, of course, is Earth. Once on Earth, he decides to blend in with the planet, turning his base into a house and giving Grr his classic dog costume, while he makes himself the perfect human disguise. Then, to gain knowledge on Earth and what it's capable of, he enrolls himself into school. And that's where he encounters Dib for the first time, who clearly knows he's an alien. The episode ends with a climactic chase scene between Zim and Dib, with Zim coming out the victor this day. Obviously, this was going to be high on the list. Fun fact, much like the attack of the Saucer Morons, this episode is also on the top 100 greatest moments in Nicktoons history, coming in at number 36, with Grr singing the Doom song being on it separately, at number 26. This episode is also ranked number 36 on the 100 greatest Nicktoons episodes, so it's no surprise it's an A+.
I put the fires out.
You made them worse.
Worse? Or better?
Number 7 is Battle Dib. This episode is about Dib needing his dad to sign a permission slip, so he can give a presentation to the secret group called the Swollen Eyeball. But Dib's dad is shooting a TV show, and Dib can only see him if he goes through practically a game show, just to get into the audience, during which he does battle with a boy named Shunk, who offers to tie with Dib, so they can both get into the audience. But Dib accidentally hits a spot on his gear that gives him a point in the contest. Then Gaz antagonizes Shunk, saying Dib was insulting him, leading to blind rage from Shunk. And then we see an awesome battle between the two, where Dib loses the contest and is kicked out of the building. But his dad signs the permission slip thinking it was an autograph, so he can give the presentation, if he didn't leave it in the alley outside the building. Much like Nano Zim, this is more of an action-focused episode, but this is a hilarious episode too, and it does a great job mixing comedy and action, making this definitely one of the best episodes the show has to offer. A+.
Oh yeah, thanks Gaz! Don't want to starve to death while saving the Earth!
Let it be known that from this day until the end of the day, vengeance will be mine. Dib, you will not know the meaning of peace, for I shall rain misery down upon your pizza-stealing heart!
Number 6 is Battle of the Planets. This is the Invader Zim episode that features Mars. Which of course they had to do an episode of Mars. I mean, having a show about an alien in our solar system and Mars doesn't come up, that would just be weird. It's like not having an episode about the moon. Wait a second. There's no Invader Zim episode about the moon? Huh. Well, what do you know? They do fly by the moon. And Zim does promise the moon to Gur when he conquers Earth. So there's that. But let's talk about the episode, which is about Zim investigating Mars, uncovering that the native Martians went extinct, turning their planet into a giant spaceship. Because it was cool. This leads Zim to decide to take Mars and crush all life on Earth with it. However, Dib sees Zim on the red planet while watching a Martian probe, which he promptly goes to NASA. Or NASA Place. He warns them about Zim, but due to their funding, the employees aren't even allowed to look at the Mars probes. However, a janitor at the facility tells Dib that the Martians actually turned another planet into a spaceship before Mars, Mercury. The janitor also has a spaceship that will get Dib to Mercury. Dib asks the janitor why he's helping him, and that's when he reveals himself to be Agent Darkbooty of the Swollen Eyeball. We then get an epic and climactic ending, where we see a literal battle of planets, as Dib and Zim fight with Mercury and Mars, ending when Zim goes into the asteroid belt, thinking Dib will follow him. But he doesn't, and things go bad for Zim. Invader Zim went all out for this episode. There was just a level of gravitas in this one, with several notable moments. The first planet in Impending Doom 2 was conquered, which of course was by Scooge. Agent Darkbooty reveals his identity to Dib. It's the first time the Urkins cheer for Zim, and Zim almost destroys Earth. It's as if this was a season finale, and the writers didn't know if they were coming back for season 2, and decided to just go all out if this was the last episode. But this isn't the season finale. They just made an epic episode. A+.
To stop him!
Where are you going at this hour?
Oh, you know.
To save the Earth?
Yes.
My poor insane son.
Number 5 is Parent-Teacher Night. This episode is about Zim having to bring his robo-parents to Parent-Teacher Night at school, after not remembering that he agreed to it.
Zim, are you going to bring your parents to Parent-Teacher Night?
Yeah, sure, whatever. Why would you take that?
He's concerned because his robo-parents aren't programmed for things like this. Heck, they can barely answer the door right. So he forces them to watch a proper Earth parenting program, but leaves Gur in charge of it, who quickly changes the channel, with the robo-parents now taking in a lot of crazy nonsense. Then Zim takes his parents to the event, and they are actually doing a good job at first. But things quickly start going wrong, and the robo-parents' insanity shines through, which results in Zim wanting to get them to leave. So they fly off with him. And of course, nobody knows this except Dib. But they do notice Dib throwing punch! I truly think this is one of the funniest episodes of Invader Zim. And I really enjoyed the story, with Zim having to scatter to solve a problem that he made because of his carelessness, only for Gur to essentially cause everything to go wrong. It's a great example of what an Invader Zim episode is, and deserves an A+.
Nothing to worry about. My dad lost his arm in, the war.
That was my squeezing arm. They took my squeezing arm! Why my squeezing arm? Ah!
Number 4 is Tack, the hideous new girl. It's Valentine's Day, and everyone does the normal tradition of handing out meat. Ah, who doesn't love Valentine's Day? But this is the only thing that happens today, as there's a new girl in school, who reads Zim a poem, which ends with "You're gonna pay." She then throws meat at him, burning his skin. After this, Zim thinks Tack is smitten with her, and sees this as an opportunity to understand human love rituals. He then attempts to court her, which continues to fail, and he keeps getting hurt. Zim then goes home and says he's done with Tack, only for Tack to be at his door, where he promptly breaks up with her, only for her to reveal that she isn't human, but also Irkin, and says that Zim prevented her from becoming an invader after getting her trapped inside her testing station with the power turned off, resulting in her failing her invader test and having to be a janitor for 70 years. And now she's here to steal Zim's mission and prove her worth to the tallest. She then gets her useful Sir unit to destroy the base, resulting in Zim needing to team up with Dib and Gaz to stop Tak's plan of hollowing out the Earth's core and replacing it with snacks for the tallest, which she gets close to accomplishing, as we see Earth becoming mangled. But the day is saved by Zim, Gur, Gaz, and Dib after a climactic space battle with Tak, resulting in her being forced into her escape pod. The episode ends sometime later after Earth is saved, with Dib looking up at the stars. Then Tak's ship comes crashing down in front of him, giving him a massive boon against Zim. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this was a truly fitting season finale. Much like Battle of the Planets, there was a level of gravitas in this episode. Earth was truly threatened, and the stakes really mattered. If only Invader Zim's schedule for this wasn't so messed up, because this was a great finale. However, it aired before other episodes in the season. Yeah, part of Invader Zim's failure is Nickelodeon being idiots with it. But back to the episode. I think Tak showed the audience what a good invader is truly capable of. She is arguably the biggest threat ever to happen in Invader Zim. Tak may have only gotten one episode, but it's absolutely one of the best. A+.
Okay, you, do things. Make Tak's robot crazy. Only if you dance with me! No. Never. Never. Oh, come on.
Number 3 is Hamster Geddon. This is the episode with PP, the new class hamster that the class loves immediately. Zim notices the kid's infatuation for PP and thinks this could be used to his advantage. So he sneaks into the school at night and uses Irkin tech on the hamster, causing PP to grow bigger and bigger until it breaks out of the school, becoming a rampaging kaiju hamster known as Ultra PP, which everyone just loves. Zim doesn't care about Ultra PP's destruction of the city until his base is threatened. He then battles Ultra PP with his ship, only to crash horribly. He then attempts to lure PP to a Ferris wheel, where he attempts to launch the hamster into space. But the military causes this plan to fail after they bombard the hamster with rockets, causing it to move out of the way of the Ferris wheel. Then Zim just says screw this, and attaches Irkin rockets to PP, launching him into space. But don't worry about PP, he shall live out there amongst the stars. Just ignore that explosion. And thanks to Nickelodeon, we know that PP survived. I love this episode. While I talked about another kaiju in the show, Santa Kaiju, it really didn't go on a classic Godzilla-esque rampage. So this is Invader Zim's kaiju episode, and it was done very well. We also got to see Zim's ship in action against Ultra PP, and that was great. Not to mention that this episode was hilarious. Hamster Geddon just did everything very well. And it firmly deserves the bronze medal of Invader Zim episodes. And of course is an A+.
Wait! I have important information about Ultra PP. You have to listen.
Now let the boy talk.
He's not a normal hamster. He's been altered somehow through alien tampering. Eating makes him larger. The more he eats, the bigger he gets.
Good work, boy. How do we stop him?
I don't know.
Get him out of here!
Number 2 is Gameslave 2. This episode is about the console Gameslave 2, and Gaz wanting it. It gets released seemingly at midnight in the mall, where she wants to go alone, bringing a bat for protection. But her dad forces Dib to go with her. However, he refuses to go until his show is over, making it that when they show up, the line is massive. She then gets rid of Dib by telling him that she saw a chupacabra. And then she meets Iggins, who is very obnoxious and constantly brags about himself. Then when they finally get to the counter, there's only one GS2 left, which is reserved for someone named Clarence Wong. And wouldn't you know, Iggins is Clarence Wong. obviously lying about it. Then Gaz gives him a chance, offering to buy the GS2, but Iggins refuses. So, vengeance has come for Iggins. We see Iggins going home playing the PS2, where he unknowingly just stepped into a horror movie, where Gaz terrorizes him. He tries to hide from her, but the GS2's batteries are low, and Gaz has all the batteries, where she dumps them into the toilet. He then rushes to the store to get the batteries on the 50th floor, but the elevator breaks, taking him to the roof, where Gaz appears for the final showdown, where she pretty much threatens to kill both of them for the GS2. And Iggins finally relents, and order is restored. This is another episode that doesn't focus on comedy. This is a full-on horror, and it's one of those times where the protagonist is the horror villain, and I freaking love it. This episode cemented Gaz as a great character in my eyes. In later years, Jonan Vasquez said that he wished he did more of Gaz during the show's run, and if it meant we got more episodes like this, I wish he did too. This has been one of my favorite episodes since childhood, and I'm glad to know it still holds up well. Getting the silver medal for Invader Zim episodes. A+.
Completed more mini quests than are even in the game! That's how I know I'm pretty much the master of all reality and all that encompasses it, because, and then all of a sudden, everyone is clapping when I beat the final boss. I didn't think it would be so easy, but it was totally easy. It was like completely easy. But I've always remained true to myself. I've just gotta be Iggins, you know what I mean? No.
But now it's time to award the gold medal. Number 1, and the best Invader Zim episode is Halloween Spectacular of Spooky Doom. This is Invader Zim's Halloween episode, where Dib is slipping in and out of a horrible nightmare world full of monsters. Within this world, there's a prophecy that says Dib will lead to the freedom of these monsters, bringing them to the real world. Unfortunately, nobody believes Dib, and he is taken to an insane asylum. However, he manages to escape when he reality shifts into a monster version of the asylum, and the monster guards take him out of the asylum, intending to take him to their leader. But he shifts back into the real world, leaving him outside the asylum, which is right near Zim's house, who has boarded up everything, because he is horrified of the monsters known as trick-or-treaters. Which, to be fair to Zim, they were trying to break into his house like a zombie horde, during which Dib breaks in and asks Zim for help, which, naturally, Zim refuses. However, when he tries to kick Dib out, Dib reality shifts again and they both go to the nightmare world. Then they agree to work together to escape, which Dib quickly betrays Zim to evade monsters. However, Zim manages to escape easily, while Dib gets himself captured, where their leader, a monster version of Miss Bitters, activates the device causing a beam to come out of Dib's head. But during that, Zim breaks in to free Dib, using some sort of badass monster robot. And of course, Zim hurts Dib a little for throwing him under the bus. We then find out that the beam is actually a portal to the real world, which Zim widens and they both escape. However, Monster Miss Bitters comes through too, and she, just like Zim, is horrified of all the trick-or-treaters, especially Gurr, who has stolen all their candy. And, well, look at him, wouldn't you be horrified? She then crawls back into Dib's head to escape them. The end. This was a perfect Invader Zim episode. It greatly emphasizes the morbid and dark elements that Invader Zim often has, without being disgusting about it. It also perfectly blended a great plot with funny jokes, along with solid scary moments. This episode was done expertly, and is the best Invader Zim episode. A+.
Sorry, I'm late. Horrible nightmare visions!
It's called life, Dib. Sit down.
And that is the list. We've done it, my friends. And if you're seeing this right now, you are now my friend, because you and I made it through this long video together. And as a reward for making it this far, here's a video of me dancing. Congratulations, you've earned it. And now I'd love to hear from you. Did you agree with my list? Did you disagree? What do you think is the best Invader Zim episode? I would love to also hear your thoughts on me making this long video, and if this is something I should continue to do or not. And if you made it this far, why don't you do me a favor and hit that like button? I mean, we are friends now. You know what? How about you subscribe as well, buddy? And hit that bell icon for good measure. Thanks, good old pal. But in all seriousness, I would like to give you all a sincere thank you for watching this video. I do greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.